lay-in, so to speak, was fairly quick, right? And that's why we used the bristles to just cover the ground fast and establish what we're dealing with. So now, once we're happy with our values, we switch speed a little bit. We switch speed and tools. So now, I still have some of my synthetic sables, synthetic bristles, just because they keep a really nice clean edge. So in order to create these sort of edges, these very sharp and clean edges, that's what I use the synthetic bristles for. But then I also switch now to my sable brushes, my natural sable brushes, which will help me create these softer transitions. Key for these is going to be that you clean them after every 2 brush strokes, and you'll see that as I paint. So just observe me paint for the next 10 minutes or so. And again, I always start dark to light, just to have sort of a roadmap. Bless you. Also, if you're trying to establish a fairly sharp edge, you probably can only do so if you have enough medium. And rather than trying to get the perfect edge right now, I first make a mistake, in quotes, and then cut back into it. And see how now I have a very clean edge here, that it wasn't established by painting it like this, perfectly laying it next to it. It was actually established by painting into each other. Does that make sense? Painting each other? And it might take 2 to 3 passes until you have it. So, anyways. So you notice I immediately clean the brush now that I'm trying to get the more softer edge of the cast shadow. Because if I keep just smearing it around, it's going to create like a messy quality.
So you're saying you're using the stiff brushes to sort of get the form in.
The shapes.
The shapes in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're forming with a softer brush?
Mm-hmm. The modeling happens with softer brushes.
Modeling.
Sharper edge I create with the synthetic bristles. Switch values. lot of it has to do with the right consistency of medium in your paint, so that's something you'll have to explore for yourself.
You actually went a little lighter behind the round sphere there before it met the other edge on the right.
Another good opportunity for painting into each other rather than trying to perfect it.
So you kind of created an opportunity to put a new line down.
Yeah. Rather than jitter
Making
my
a
way
straight
into it, you
line.
know.
Yeah, yeah, that's neat.
Okay, so now let's go to the softer edges. Use my sable brushes for that. And again, as always, you have one for your darks and one for your lights. And then you just keep pushing back and forth. And I like for the softer transitions, you also have to mentally slow down a little bit. And that's where I won't bug you about actually resting your hand someplace and grabbing the brush close to the tip.
How do you do that on a bigger painting?
This here?
Yeah, when you can't really put your hand
What I do is I use my pinky and just rest it in the painting, and then you can get rid of that little mark. Or then there's something called a maul stick that you can rest on the edge, and you kind of do it like that.
Cool.
Yeah. But again, like, this is, the best way is not to go along the form, it's actually to go across the form. And obviously you don't want to drag from here into there, you just go across the form in smaller increments. And the reason why you don't go with the form is because that creates a visual motion that it kind of rushes you through it. It doesn't create the illusion as nicely as going across the form.
Using a dry brush.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's so important to keep it clean. And then, for example, here now it's getting a little messy for my taste, so I'm actually going to apply some more paint into that area. And you see, like now it's time for little increments. You see how there's like a little bubble up here? It's not much, but I see it and I immediately take care of it because later I'll forget. Don't just let it stand like that. I go back into the light mass again and correct it. So it's always a back and forth. It's never just done within one brush stroke. now with the highlight, you do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to switch brushes because this one was the one for the core shadows, and now I'm going to go into the light sable brush. It's a little jittery today. It's too much caffeine in the morning. So now, it's not as perfectly round as this one. It kind of gets the idea of form across. The thing that I don't like too much is how quickly it transitions from the light into the dark. So I would probably go back now and darken the mid-tone.
Then you blend that all over again.
Not all over, just the areas that need it. And again, even if you're in a stage like this, don't be afraid to destroy something. Sometimes destroying something is really going to make it a better painting in the long run. You just need to clarify your edges again once you destroyed something. Okay, so sharp edges. What do we use for sharp edges? Synthetic bristles. You can soften out on a flat area like that with your synthetic brushes. You just need to keep them clean. If you want a softer edge, what do you use?
Soft brush.
They're the sable brushes.
Sable.
So you have one for your darks and one for your lights. And after every 1 or 2 dabs, you clean it again. Any other questions so far?
With a stiff brush, you want to have two stiff brushes as well.
At least, yeah.
Do you have a little bit of cancel when you're blending on the brush, or is it just nothing?
That's, you need to make sure you have enough paint on your canvas. And that only happens if you use enough Gamsol anyways in the laying. But for example, also you see areas like this where there's lots of texture from the laying because the paint was so thin. Now would be an opportunity to say, okay, let's smooth this out. And you can smooth